Hi, folks. It's Diane Liddington here, ACTE 630. Just wanted to review the accessibility of some things that I use. Because I'm moving into this unit on biochemistry, I figured I would review some of the stuff that I use for this particular unit. So far, we've done a lot of work and learned a lot of things, but I think one of the most powerful things that I learned, I guess most powerful activity, honestly, was watching that video of the screen reader read, um, the read aloud. I've never tried it. I've never used it personally. I've helped kids navigate to it on their own screens. If you're on a web page and you right click, one of the options is usually read aloud. Not all web pages have it, but frequently they do. So I've helped kids get to that, but they're wearing headphones so that they can listen to it. I'm not listening in with them and, it'll get it started, but I won't hear how it translates things. And being a science teacher, how it reads tables to me was mind-boggling. That it just reads across. And if you're reading data in a table, you need it to be read down, right? Like you need to see the trend in something over time, usually is what we're looking at least, most commonly. So you need to see the data set as it's changing. So that was an eye-opener to me. If I'm giving out data sets, then I need to make sure that I have the accessibility features set properly so that it'll read the data down the table instead of just across like 0 seconds, 0, 0, 10 seconds, this, because then it doesn't tie back to what treatment you're working with. Like it's not sensical. So that really stood out to me as a science teacher, and having a lot of data tables that I utilize for things, and that is automatically not accessible because I've never listened to it. I never realized that was something you had to do. So I've certainly never edited that feature when I put a table into a worksheet, a PDF, whatever it is. So that was really eye-opening to me. But this particular lab that I'm showing you here, I actually did go through. I don't know if you guys have done this. I don't think it explicitly said it. But if you go to review, it will see check accessibility. And you can take a look at what's going on. Object descriptions. Oh, okay. This makes sense. Yep. So in my graph, I don't have alt text. I'm not explaining what's in the graph. Now, for this particular worksheet, I have the kids generate the graph. So that would be kind of difficult for someone who is visually impaired to be able to process that. I would have to give them, I would have to create it or not ask them to do it or something, because that's not something they could use. Text box. Oh, okay. Same kind of concept for those. But I did choose read aloud, and I listened to this document read aloud, the lab, and that went really well with the bold and the headings, with the underline and bold separate headings to the paragraphs and the explanations. It pauses when it hits this and then starts reading again. So these bolded terms, and then the tab down or the next line down to start the words with the tab in, was very helpful to listen, because it does, it will pause when it hits that before it starts reading. So the first section of this I thought was pretty accessible, listening into its description. Now checking these missing object descriptions that it gave me here, that makes sense. I didn't listen through till it got to the graph. But here is where I stopped and said, yeah, this is going to be a problem, is in this data table. It reads here to time, to control group, to experimental group, then 0, then 10, then 20. Whereas it would have made more sense to read it down, like time, seconds, and then number of beats put together, control group, experimental group. And then this should have said fill in. Like if I put use data to fill in, blah, 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 then it would have been more accessible. So this is somewhere where I will have to edit to make it more accessible. The other item that I chose, this is actually a Pear Deck that I use when we do review together. And the more I looked at this, I would absolutely, if I had students that needed the read aloud, they wouldn't, I would have to post this PowerPoint as a PowerPoint. I couldn't use it as a Pear Deck because when you go in, if you open a Pear Deck for students, it does not have all of the features that PowerPoint has. So even though I'm a student, I can sit and I can click read aloud and I can, I can go in and do that. I can't do that in Pear Deck. The other thing that I've found that's an issue with Pear Deck is you can't use subtitles anymore. So I have my PowerPoint set to always have Spanish subtitles on it. I frequently have students where Spanish is their first language. So when I'm doing a PowerPoint, I leave it up and I have the subtitles going. But I lose that when I have a Pear Deck that's an extension that doesn't come with it when you have the Pear Deck open. And then the accessibility features go away. So if I were to use this Pear Deck, it would have to be a synchronous Pear Deck because I could say the words. Like they'd be able to listen to me even if they weren't able to see, I don't know, a chart. I could explain, I could say, circle the organic molecules. Which organic molecules are blah, 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 blah. And then they could speak to text and write their answer in. But if I were to do it asynchronously, then now I would have to host it not as a Pear Deck, but as a PowerPoint, in which students would have to download and then fill the answers in, which I guess is not, I don't know, it's not earth-shattering, but it is harder and less, I don't know, more work, I'd say, for the student to have to do the things to do, like get it in instead of just put it right into the Pear Deck. So it's unfortunate. The other big thing that jumped out to me was whenever I'm making a PowerPoint and it gives me alt text suggestions, because I use so many sciencey diagrams, alt text is never helpful. It's like a picture of letters or something, and it's like a chemical formula, like, so I always just delete it because it's not useful. But for someone who needs that read aloud, they would need to know that, like, this is a molecule of benzene. Benzene forms a ring. Okay, well, now I know missing object descriptions. There are 46 missing object descriptions in this PowerPoint / Pear Deck that I've made, and it makes sense, thinking back to it, because I don't put alt text in or I delete it because, like I said, the auto suggestions are silly. They're not helpful, and because they're not helpful, I usually delete them. And I guess it's better to have something than nothing. So now I know that I need to go in. Like, that's something that I have to do. It's an area of growth for me, is to have that thought and be thinking about that when I'm putting these pieces together to make sure that I am putting in effective alt text for individuals who need that accessibility, because it's not something I'm doing, and I will admit that is is certainly an area of growth for me. So that is my review of accessibility options on my 2 different biochemistry activities